Before we begin, I'd just like to make a disclaimer. 1. The info in this video is mainly for new players. If you want something more advanced or more specific, feel free to post your desired topic in the comments below and maybe we could make a video about it. 2. Warframe's basically a sandbox of ideas. How you approach certain game elements may be different to how I approach them. This video doesn't offer a singular be-all, end-all solution. It offers a path, one of hundreds of paths you can take in a game as complicated as Warframe. And with that out of the way, let's begin. We've talked about modding Warframes and about the Arsenal UI in the previous video, so for this one, we'll talk about modding weapons. Looking at your arsenal, you'll see that you have space for a primary, a secondary, and a melee weapon. Modding the primary and the secondary weapon is pretty similar, as you can see here. So, let's talk about that first. We will use the Boltor as an example. Going into the upgrade section of our primary, you'll see that we have 8 mod slots, an Exilus slot, and a slot for the Arcane. For our purposes, since this is a new player guide, we'll just use these 8 main mod slots first. As always, before we start modding, let's look at the stats first. Its fire rate is pretty average, but it's okay since it's a rifle anyway. Magazine size is pretty good, which means the reload time is going to be pretty long. Accuracy is high, meaning bullets won't go too far from where your crosshair is. And the fire rate is automatic, meaning we can just click and hold and bullets fly out of the barrel. We will talk about Riven disposition some other time, but for now, let's move on to the damage stats. Crit chance is low. Ideally, you'd want this in the mid-20s and even in the 30s. Critical multiplier is underwhelming, but it's okay since it doesn't seem to be a crit weapon anyway. Stats chance is also kinda low. What this tells us is that it might be a raw damage weapon, not relying on status and crit to deal damage. This is okay for early game, but as you progress, you will want to find weapons that specialize in either status or crit. And as you walk through the steel path, find a weapon that does both. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Going back to the Boltor, you'll see that it does deal IPS damage. IPS stands for Impact, Puncture, and Slash. These 3 are the base physical damage types of the game. But as you can see, it deals a lot more puncture damage than it does slash or impact. So when we shoot an enemy, it will likely give us a puncture damage proc instead of the other 2. I mentioned the word proc, and you'll be hearing me say that a lot in my guide videos. Proc is short for programmed random occurrence. So when I say that something procs, it's just slang for something happening a certain way as the developers designed it. Summarizing the base stats of our weapon, we know it depends on raw damage, so it's useless to mod it for status or crit. We know it deals high puncture, so maybe we can use that. We know it takes forever to reload, so maybe we can fix that. I would now like to talk about my 2 major principles when it comes to modding weapons. Building up and building for. Building up means adding more to the bigger values that the weapon has. In our example, Boltor has high puncture. Building up means adding more puncture, adding more status chance, and basically building to highlight the weapon's strengths. The other side of this is building for, which means compensating for its weaknesses. Going back, we mentioned that the reload time is too long, so we might want to build for that. These 2 principles don't have to be separated, but given that you have limited mod slots, approaching building with these in mind can help you prioritize your resources. Now, before we continue building the Boltor, please feel free to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more guides like this one. With that out of the way, let's continue. Serration is popular in the early game because it gives straight damage. Slotting in a max ranked Serration nearly tripled our output. Next, we need to add some Multishot. We could use either split chamber or vigilante armaments. Since we won't be polarizing this weapon, let's use one with less drain. It turned our 66.2 damage to 106. How did that happen? This is when we talk about Multishot. Multishot is a stat describing the number of projectiles fired simultaneously per unit of ammo. In short, our Boltor now fires 1.6 bullets per ammo unit used, meaning the base amount of damage we had after Serration, which was 66.2, got a 60% bump, which put it at 106. 60% being the amount of multishot we added into the gun. We now need to add elemental damage that could help us defeat whatever faction we're fighting. Hovering over the nodes on the star chart will show us what elements to use and what to avoid. It's best to use the right damage types to have an easier time. As an example, we could slot in 2 status mods and combine them to make corrosive. Feel free to pause the video here and look at the element combination chart being shown to you right now. We're using status mods instead of the pure elemental mods because our gun has a slightly higher base status number than its crit, so it makes sense to build in this direction. Warframe likes to deal in percentages, so if we're working with a higher base number, it will only make sense that the final product after percentage computation is higher. Since we've already started building for status anyway, and since the gun is giving us a D polarity for free, we can slot in rifle aptitude for more status. We still have 18 capacity to use, so let's deal with that ridiculous reload time with fast hands. 0.6 might not be much, but it's something. That leaves us with 11 capacity, so let's add piercing hit for more puncture, since we've established that we work towards playing to the gun's strengths. Now, how do we read the final stats? We read this as having taken Boltor's 25 damage to a whopping 309.5 damage per ammo unit, with each shot having a 43.4% chance to proc IPS and corrosive with proc priority as follows. Puncture, corrosive with slash and impact tied at 1.5%. I know that sounds like a lot of numbers, but that's just the game for you. Now, we'll learn modding for melee using Sun and Moon as an example. Modding for melee is not that much different. There's just a few extra stats I wanted to talk about, and that is follow-through and combo count. Follow-through is a damage factor that reduces the damage you cause on enemies caught within the initial arch of your attack. So if our sword swings like this, and it hits the first enemy for 200, the next enemy will get hit by 90. Because 55% of 200 is 110, 200 minus 110 is 90. And the enemy after that will get hit for 40.5 because 90 less 55% is 40.5. This is why we would like follow-through to be as low as possible. Combo counter is the number you see at the bottom right of your screen when you have your melee equipped. Attacking or blocking grants combo points dependent on different values and bonuses. Every 20 consecutive hits grants you a combo multiplier. Your combo counter increases the damage your heavy attack will do. At 20, you will get a 2 times multiplier. At 40, you will get a 3 times multiplier, and so on until 12 times at 220. Using a heavy attack will consume all your combo unless you have combo efficiency. Stopping your melee attacks will cause your combo duration timer to tick down. It starts at 5 seconds, which can be extended using mods or can be switched to decay rather than just vanish with the Naramon Focus School. We'll talk about focus schools in another video. While the combo multiplier only affects heavy attacks, it can also increase crit chance and status chance based on the combo with certain mods. Given all this information and what we've already learned while modding the Boltor, let's start modding the Sun and Moon. Pressure point for damage, and we'll add quickening for attack speed and combo count chance, so each strike has a chance to give us more than one combo point. We will then force this weapon to do critical hits for us by adding Blood Rush, which increases critical chance per combo multiplier. Note that mods like this, that depend on a certain condition to trigger, will not show stat increases on the stat sheet right away. Then we'll add Organ Shatter for crit damage, since this will turn into a crit weapon as our combo multiplier increases. We'll add 2 base elemental mods. We'll use Corrosive again as an example. We have no more mod capacity, but since we have a free stance slot, we can slot in a stance mod to give us a few extra points. Using Mountain's Edge gave us 10 extra points, which we will use to add Relentless Combination because our weapon has high slash procs anyway. Because we're sure to get slash procs, we'll surely get slash ticks, so we'll surely get more combo counter from this. This is what I'm talking about when I was saying that we can build up an item, We're using what the item already has in order to make it stronger. So again, one final look at the mods. Pressure Point for damage, Quickening and Relentless Combination for combo, Blood Rush for crit chance, Organ Shatter for crit damage, and 2 base elemental mods for corrosive. You've now learned how to mod your weapons in Warframe. In the next video, we'll learn about Helminth abilities. So make sure to like and subscribe for that video and more guides about Warframe. Bye for now.